There's a monkey that can write you a poem about the ocean. Ask it to explain quantum physics, and it will. Ask it to fix your code, draft your email, name your dog, or talk you through a hard day, and it'll do that too. It never tires. It never asks for a banana in return. And most people who use it every single day have no real idea what's happening on the other side of the screen. So let me tell you what's actually happening. Not the marketing version. The real one. Because here's the part nobody mentions. This monkey wasn't built. It wasn't designed the way you'd design a bridge or a watch, with a blueprint and a plan for every part. This monkey was raised. It started out knowing nothing at all, less than a newborn, less than an insect. And through a long and very strange education, it became the thing you talk to today. This is the story of that education. From a wild monkey that understood nothing to the helpful assistant in your pocket. And once you see the whole journey, ChatGPT stops feeling like magic. It starts feeling like exactly what it is. Let's begin at the beginning, when the monkey knew nothing. Picture a monkey sitting alone in an empty room. In front of it is a long trail of bananas laid out in a row, stretching off into the distance. Each banana has a word written on it. That's the only thing in this world that matters. Bananas and the words on them. For our monkey, words and bananas are the same thing. So from here on, when I say banana, I mean a small piece of language, a word or a fragment of one. Now this monkey has exactly one job. It looks at the trail of bananas in front of it and it tries to guess the next banana in the line. That's it. That's the entire game. See some bananas? Guess what comes next? At the start, the monkey is hopeless at this. Worse than hopeless. If the trail of bananas reads the sky is, a person would guess blue. Our monkey guesses spoon, then 17. Then a banana with no word on it at all, just a smudge. It has no idea what language is. It has no idea what a sky is, or what blue means, or that words tend to follow each other in patterns. To this monkey, every banana is as likely as every other banana. It is, in the most literal sense, guessing at random. This is where every one of these systems begins. Before any training, before any learning, the monkey is wild. Inside it are millions upon millions of tiny dials, and at the start, every dial is set to a random position. Those dials are what decide its guesses. Random dials, random guesses. The monkey is a blank, churning mess of noise. It'd be easy to look at this creature and conclude it'll never amount to anything. And if you left it alone, you'd be right. A wild monkey guessing at random will guess at random forever. But we're not going to leave it alone. We're going to teach it. And the way we teach it is the strangest and most important part of this whole story. We're going to hand the monkey something enormous. Imagine every banana note ever written, every book in every library, every article, every recipe, every argument in a comment section, every how-to guide, every line of poetry, every page of every encyclopedia. Imagine all of it laid out as trails of bananas, more bananas than the monkey could count in 1,000 lifetimes, a whole jungle of language gathered from across the world. We bring the monkey to the edge of this jungle, and we begin the great reading. Here's how a single lesson works. We take a trail of bananas from somewhere in the jungle, say a sentence from a book. We show the monkey all of it except the last banana, which we keep hidden behind our back. Then we ask the monkey its one and only question. What comes next? The monkey guesses. Remember, at this point it's terrible, so it guesses wrong. It says spoon. Then we reveal the banana we were hiding. The real word was forest. And now the important moment. The monkey was wrong, and we let it feel exactly how wrong and in which direction. Every one of those millions of internal dials gets nudged, just slightly, in a direction that would have made the correct answer a little more likely, and the wrong answer a little less. Not a big change, a whisper of a change. One nudge across millions of dials based on one banana Then we do it again. A different trail, a different hidden banana. Guess, reveal, nudge. Again, guess, reveal, nudge. Again. Now do that not 100 times, not 1,000,000 times, but a number so large it stops meaning anything. The monkey reads its way through the entire jungle, banana by banana, guessing the next one every single time, and being corrected every single time. Hundreds of billions of words pass under its eyes. Each one leaves a faint fingerprint on those dials, and something remarkable starts to happen. The monkey, purely by trying to guess the next banana over and over, begins to notice patterns. Not because anyone explained them. Nobody ever taught this monkey a single rule of grammar. Nobody sat it down and said adjectives come before nouns, or a question usually ends with a question mark. We only ever played one game with it, guess the next banana, and corrected it when it was wrong. But to get good at that one game, the monkey had no choice but to start absorbing how language actually works. It learns that the sky tends to be followed by blue, or clear, or falling, far more often than by spoon. It learns that after once upon a, the next banana is almost always time. It learns the shape of a sentence, the rhythm of an argument, the way a recipe is laid out, the way a story builds. And it goes deeper than grammar. Because words carry facts, the monkey starts to soak up facts too. After reading the same kind of banana trail in 10,000 different places, it learns that the banana after the capital of France tends to be Paris. Not because it understands France or cities or maps, only because, across the whole jungle, that's the banana that kept coming next. This stage has a name. It's called pretraining, and it's the longest and most expensive part of the monkey's whole life. It's months of reading. It's an amount of electricity that could power a town. And at the end of it, you have a monkey that has, in a strange and shallow way, read nearly everything humanity has ever written down. But notice what kind of skill the monkey has actually built. It hasn't learned to be helpful. It hasn't learned to be honest. It hasn't learned to answer questions. It has learned exactly one thing with staggering depth. It has learned to guess the next banana. Everything else, every essay it'll ever write, every question it'll ever answer, is going to be built out of that single ability, used over and over. Which raises a fair question. How does guessing one banana at a time turn into a whole intelligent-sounding answer? Before we get there, we need to look at one more trick the monkey learned during all that reading. Because the monkey isn't just guessing blindly, it's paying attention. When you read a sentence, you don't treat every word as equally important. Take the sentence, "The trophy did not fit in the suitcase because it was too big." What does it refer to, the trophy or the suitcase? You know instantly, it's the trophy. To work that out, you quietly leaned on the word big and the word trophy. And you ignored most of the other words. You paid attention to what mattered. Our monkey learned to do the same thing. As it reads a trail of bananas, deciding what comes next, it doesn't give every earlier banana equal weight. It glances back along the trail and quietly decides which earlier bananas matter most for this particular guess. When the next banana depends on something said 20 bananas ago, the monkey learns to reach back 20 bananas and lean on exactly that one. This ability to look back along the trail and weigh what matters is more than anything else the breakthrough that made these monkeys good. It's the reason a modern system can hold the thread of a long paragraph, remember what you said at the start of a conversation, and keep a complex idea straight across hundreds of words. The monkey isn't reading in a straight, forgetful line. With every banana it guesses, it's glancing back over everything that came before and asking, quietly, which of these bananas should I be listening to right now? Hold on to that because it's the difference between a monkey that babbles and a monkey that makes sense. Now back to the journey. Because even with all of this, the reading, the patterns, the attention, our monkey has a serious problem. After the great reading, the monkey is brilliant and almost useless. Here's the problem. We trained it to do one thing, continue a trail of bananas in the way the jungle would? And the jungle isn't a helpful place. The jungle is just everything anyone ever wrote. So the monkey has learned to imitate all of it, faithfully, including the parts you don't want. Watch what happens if you simply hand this freshly read monkey a question. You lay down a trail of bananas that says, "What's the best way to learn the guitar?" And you wait for it to continue. A helpful assistant would answer. But our monkey isn't a helpful assistant. It's a next banana guesser that has read the entire internet. And on the internet, when it sees a sentence like, "What's the best way to learn the guitar?" what very often comes next isn't an answer. It's another question. So the monkey, faithfully imitating what it read, continues your question with 5 more questions. What's the best way to learn the piano? What's the best way to learn to sing? It has produced a perfectly realistic continuation. It's also completely unhelpful. This is the awkward truth about the monkey at this stage. It isn't wise. It isn't aligned with what you want. It doesn't even know that you want something. It only knows how trails of bananas tend to continue. It'll happily continue a polite question with a rude answer, or a real question with a confident, total fabrication. Because somewhere in the jungle, that's how some banana trail went. So the monkey can speak, but it has no idea that it's supposed to be helping you. The reading taught it the entire language and almost none of the manners. This is the moment where most explanations of ChatGPT quietly stop. They tell you about the great reading, and they leave you thinking that's the whole story. It isn't. The reading produced a wild genius. To turn that wild genius into something you'd actually want to talk to, we need the second half of its education. We need to bring in the keepers. Now the monkey meets people. Real ones. This next stage of its life is much shorter than the great reading, but it changes the monkey's character completely. The reading made it knowledgeable. This is what makes it helpful. It happens in 2 parts. In the first part, the keepers show the monkey what good looks like. They write out a large set of example conversations, real questions, paired with the kind of thoughtful, honest, well-mannered answers a person would actually want. A question about the guitar, followed by a genuinely helpful answer about the guitar. And they let the monkey read these the same way it read everything else, guessing along, getting corrected. But now the bananas it's learning to imitate aren't the wild jungle. They're careful examples of being helpful. Slowly, the monkey's instincts begin to shift. When it now sees a question, the continuation it reaches for is no longer another question from the internet. It's the kind of answer a good keeper would give. The same machinery, the same next banana guessing, but pointed at a far better target. The second part is more subtle, and it's where the monkey really learns its manners. Here, instead of just showing the monkey good answers, the keepers let it produce its own, and then they judge them. The monkey writes 2 different answers to the same question. The keepers look at both and point to the better one. This banana trail is better than that one. They do this again and again, across a huge range of questions, building up a steady signal of what humans actually prefer. Answers that are clearer, more honest, more useful, less likely to cause harm. And the monkey learns to chase that signal. This is the part that works like training any animal, not with a literal treat, but with a reward. The monkey produces an answer. The answer gets scored against everything the keepers have shown they prefer, and a good score nudges those internal dials toward producing more answers like that one. A bad score nudges them away. Do this enough, and the monkey stops merely predicting what comes next and starts predicting what comes next that a person would be glad to receive. That's a meaningful difference. It's the difference between a monkey that says whatever the jungle would say and a monkey that has learned to be helpful, to admit when it's unsure, to be polite, and to refuse when you ask it for something genuinely harmful. This whole second education, the examples, and then the rewarding of good answers over bad ones, is what turns the wild reader into the assistant. It's the polish on the lens. Without it, you have a monkey that can imitate anything. With it, you have a monkey that has chosen, in a sense, to be useful to you. So now we have our finished creature. A monkey that read nearly everything, learned to pay attention to what matters, and was then patiently shaped by human hands into something helpful. The journey from the empty room is complete. There's just one thing left to understand. What actually happens in the half-second after you hit enter? You type a message and you send it. On your side, it feels instant and whole, like the monkey read your question, thought about it, and wrote back. That isn't what happens. What happens is stranger, and once you see it, you'll never quite unsee it. Your message is turned into a trail of bananas and laid in front of the monkey. And then the monkey does the only thing it has ever known how to do. It looks at the whole trail, your words, and it guesses the single next banana. Just one. The first word of its reply. Then it takes that new banana, adds it to the end of the trail, and looks at the whole thing again. Your message plus the one word it just produced, and guesses the next banana after that. Then it adds that one and guesses again and again. One banana at a time, each new word chosen by looking back over everything written so far, including the answer it's in the middle of building. That's why when you watch ChatGPT reply, the words often stream out one piece at a time. You're not watching it reveal an answer it already finished. You're watching it build the answer in real time, banana by banana, never more than one step ahead of you. It doesn't know how its own sentence will end when it begins it. It's guessing its way to the end of its own thought, the same way it guessed its way through the entire jungle. There's one more dial worth knowing about, because it explains a lot about how these answers feel. At each step, the monkey doesn't actually have just one candidate for the next banana. It has a whole spread of possibilities, each with a different likelihood. Sometimes it's almost certain, after the capital of France is, the banana Paris towers over everything else. But often there are several reasonable bananas, and the monkey has a choice about how boldly to pick. Keep it cautious, and it'll almost always reach for the most likely banana, giving you answers that are safe, predictable, sometimes a little flat. Loosen it, and it'll more often take the second or third most likely banana, giving you answers that are more surprising, more creative, and occasionally more unhinged. This is the dial behind the difference between a monkey that writes a dry, factual paragraph and one that writes you a wild, original story. Same monkey, same bananas, just a different willingness to gamble on the next one. Which brings us, finally, to the part you most need to understand. Because this whole picture has a shadow. Everything I've described has a consequence, and it's the single most important thing to understand about talking to one of these monkeys. The monkey is always guessing the next banana. Even when it doesn't know, it has no separate place inside it that holds true facts, walled off from everything else. There's no little library in the monkey's head that it checks before answering. There's only the trained instinct for which banana tends to follow which. And usually because it read so much, that instinct lands on something true. Ask it the capital of France, and the pull toward Paris is overwhelming, so it tells you Paris, and it's right. But ask it something obscure, or something that sits in a gap in what it read, and the instinct still fires. The monkey doesn't have a way to stop and say, "I have no banana for this." It'll simply produce the bananas that feel most like the right kind of answer. A name that sounds like a real author, a court case that sounds like a real ruling, a citation in exactly the right shape. And it'll hand them to you with the same calm confidence it uses for Paris. In this series, we call that the monkey inventing a banana. The rest of the world calls it a hallucination. And it isn't a glitch. It isn't the monkey breaking. It's the monkey doing precisely what it was trained to do. Produce a plausible next banana. In a situation where the plausible banana happens to be false. The very same machinery that makes it sound so fluent is the machinery that lets it be confidently wrong. This is why the honest way to use one of these monkeys is to treat it as what it is. It isn't an oracle, it isn't a database. It's an extraordinarily well-read guesser, with a gift for sounding certain. For brainstorming, for drafting, for explaining a familiar idea, for turning a blank page into a starting point, it's genuinely remarkable. for anything where being wrong has a cost, a medical fact, a legal claim, a number you're about to act on. You check the banana before you trust it. And there's one more limit worth naming plainly. The monkey only ever read the jungle as it existed up to a certain point. Whatever happened after its great reading ended, it simply doesn't know, unless it has been given a separate tool to go and look. Left on its own, it's frozen at the edge of the jungle it was raised in. None of this is a reason to distrust the monkey. It's a reason to understand it. A tool you understand is a tool you can use well. So, how does ChatGPT actually work? It's a monkey that began in an empty room, knowing nothing, guessing at random. We sat it down in front of nearly everything humanity has ever written, and we played one game with it. Guess the next banana hundreds of billions of times, until just to win that game, it absorbed the patterns of language, the shape of facts, and a way of paying attention to what matters. Then we brought in keepers, who showed it what helpfulness looks like and rewarded it, patiently, for choosing good answers over bad ones, until the wild reader became something you'd want to talk to. And now, every time you send it a message, it does the only thing it has ever learned to do. It looks at your words and guesses the next banana, then the next, then the next, building whole answers, one small guess at a time, never quite knowing how its own sentence will end. That's the whole secret. There's no understanding hiding underneath, no spark of a mind, no little person in the machine. There's a journey from a wild monkey that knew nothing to an assistant that has read the world and learned its manners. And at the end of that journey, one very simple act performed at impossible speed. A guess at the next banana. Once you see it that way, the magic doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. It stops being magic, and it becomes something better, a thing you understand and can use and can keep in its proper place. If this made the monkey make a little more sense, there's a whole troop of them waiting on this channel, one that invents bananas it was never given, one that learned from a billion bananas, one that became a specialist, and the whole zoo besides. We'll see you in the next one.